early 1800s. So it's a little bit younger than the other interior. Just wait till everyone gets in here. I'll tell you real quick. So this is our other interior from Damascus. It's younger than the one we have in the Ottoman gallery. But Doris Duke, again, purchased these pieces from Hagop Kevorkian. They come from the same home, but again, they're not all from the same room. And one way we can tell, I mean, you can sort of see how some of it is out of context, but the calligraphy you see all the way around, this is actually a poem, that's a very famous poem in Arabic, known as the Cloak. This poet had a dream that the prophet came to him and covered him in a cloak and cured him of paralysis. And so this is a really common poem you see written in a lot of these Damascene interiors, but they're out of context, so these pieces, the poem doesn't match all the way around. And also, if you look at this square right here, this has been cleaned or restored. Also, that square in the corner, to show the original color of this interior was a lot lighter and more colorful. And it's darkened over its history due to light exposure. And so that's why we keep it dimly lit in here, but we made the decision not to restore the whole thing because you could do more damage to it, actually. So, but we did restore those squares just to give people an idea. So because we have two of these Damascene interiors, we decided to tell the story of the interior in our Ottoman gallery and exhibit our works of art from Iran from the Qajar period, which is 19th century, in this gallery. So everything you're looking at in the display cases is actually from the Qajar period in Iran, which is about 1779 till 1924. When Doris Duke was traveling through Iran in the mid-1930s, this period had just ended. So a lot of what she was collecting and picking up was contemporary. And these are items that are used every day. These are domestic items. So she was one of the only collectors from the West at that time who was interested in these things. It wasn't until a few decades ago that Qajar art became a really widely recognized thing, and major museums around the world started having exhibitions. But we have this very unique and beautiful collection of Qajar art. Some of my favorite pieces are these glass pieces. And I love telling the story about these ones, the one in the middle here and the one in the middle there. These are swan neck bottles. In Iran, they're known as ashkdan, which literally means tear collector. So there's a folklore legend attached to these bottles that they were used to collect tears. And there's different versions of the story. One of the more popular ones is that women would collect their tears whose husbands were at war, and then the husband comes back, you have to present your full bottle of tears. It's very dramatic. They weren't actually ever used for that. They were mostly used, and this is a really nice bottle if you had guests come over to your home. You would bring this bottle out to sprinkle some rose water on their hands and feet as they entered the home, orange blossom water, or other sort of sweet liquid juices known as sharbat, or sherbet, not the frozen treat that they know in America, but like the actual sweet liquid juice. So it's a really nice bottle that you would bring out for guests. Another thing I love pointing out is this copper alloy serving tray up here. The calligraphy in the middle is written in Farsi, but if you notice in the four corners, there are Chinese emblems. So, we talk a lot about the Silk Road exchange between East and West Asia, but in this period, 19th century, there was a heightened awareness of that. And craft people from China were regularly coming to Iran. Iranian craft people were going all the way east to China. So there's a lot of exchange happening. Below it, there's a smoking pipe known as a qelyun, and that actually has very European-looking images on it, if you notice that. So really, we wanted to show the global nature of this dynasty in Iran. And actually, for us in Hawaii, there's a connection. The Qajar dynasty in Iran established diplomatic relationships with the Hawaiian kingdom. So King Kalakaua of the Hawaiian Kingdom exchanged royal orders with Nasir ad-Din Shah of Iran, which was known as Persia at the time. Letters of friendship were exchanged between the two kings. And at that time, Iran, or Persia, was looking at the Hawaiian Kingdom as a model of how to deal with European and American imperialism. Because the Hawaiian Kingdom was the first non-European nation to be accepted into the Family of Nations, which was a European-only club that then became the League of Nations, the United Nations. 1843 is when the Hawaiian Kingdom was accepted, and so Persia, other countries, other non-European countries around the world were trying to do this same thing. establish their sovereignty. Because according to the European laws, if once you were accepted as an independent sovereign nation, then you were no longer up for colonization. At that point, everything had to be done through treaty. And we know those treaties aren't always honored, but still, you know, as far as what the Hawaiian Kingdom was trying to do was establish their sovereignty. And King Kalakaua was specifically making connections with other non-European powers around the world to create this sort of confederation of non-European powers to grapple and deal with imperialism at the time. So it's really interesting, those letters and the royal order that was sent. So the royal order of Kamehameha was sent from Hawaii to Iran. The royal order of the lion and the sun, which is a symbol of Islamic dynasties, was sent to Hawaii, and it's on display at Iolani Palace. So if you ever get an opportunity to visit Iolani Palace, I always recommend that for people to learn the political history of Hawaii and see all of those royal orders from around the world. So for us, being a museum of Islamic art in Hawaii, in the Pacific, a lot of people think this is sort of out of place. But these histories go far back. And we know not just with Iran, but Egypt had diplomatic relationships with the Hawaiian Kingdom. The Ottomans had diplomatic relationships with the Hawaiian Kingdom, and so on. Last thing I'll tell you is this rug. This is a really beautiful rug that we just had made for us about 2 years ago. So we wanted to display rugs in this space, but obviously the environmental conditions here are very rough for textiles, for anything. It's a crazy place to have a museum at the edge of the ocean. But we weren't able to display our older rugs in the space, but we sent images from rugs in our collection from the Qajar era to an organization known as Turquoise Mountain. They're an NGO that works out of Afghanistan, and they actually hired rug weavers in northern Afghanistan, so they support the work of craft people. They hired rug weavers from northern Afghanistan to hand make this for us. And they combined motifs from rugs in our collection and handmade this for us and sent it to us. And we received it right before the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan. So again, we were very lucky to get it in time. And a great way for us to have something that we can use, we can walk on, we can touch, and also keep this tradition of working with contemporary craft people, artists around the world, and support the work that they do. If you notice, there's actually a really obvious intentional imperfection put into this rug. And although it's handmade, it's never going to be perfectly symmetrical. There's still a very obvious imperfection put in as a sign of humility. Has anyone seen it yet? Yeah, right here. So this, the middle of this flower, the color is off, just to throw off the symmetry of the piece. Anyone have any questions? Yes?
Sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know if it's been asked, but how do you preserve all the woodwork and everything, given all the salt?
So we're only open to the public on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. And then Wednesdays, we will do like community groups like this, or school trips. So it's limited access to the museum. One, because we have a conditional use permit, we're in a residential neighborhood, so there's strict rules on how we can operate, but also for the preservation of the museum as well. Try to have as least impact on it as possible. I am a programs person, so I'm the curator of programs. So I want access all the time. I want everything to be open. I want people to experience everything. So it's always a balance between programs